Silence all cell phones during the meeting, please. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube. I've called the meeting to order. Would everyone stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is, for me, I have the great privilege and pleasure to present an award to Mr. Jack Walker. Jack, could you come up, please? Now, before I get into the main reasons or why Jack is going to be presented this award, which I'm very happy that I have this opportunity and privilege, as I mentioned. I was thinking, Jack and I have known one another probably for about 25 years. He's been in Leavenworth and at Fort Leavenworth longer than me, but I came back here as a colonel in the late 90s, and he was the deputy garrison commander. And I was working on some things for the Army officer education system and things like that, so we had an opportunity to work. And we also served on the board of directors of Armed Forces Insurance. So I got to know Jack way back then, and obviously was very, very impressed and very fortunate to have worked with him and learn from him. But I was thinking a little bit today that we have a few things in common, and which we really haven't talked about over the years, but I think we both grew up on the East Coast, right? Right, Jack? Correct. Jack a little further south than me, in Baltimore or around Baltimore, and me on Long Island. We both went to college not too far from where we live. We played that old Native American game, lacrosse, and while Jack was a few years ahead of me, he was a really, really good player, and we played Hopkins. Army played Hopkins on a few occasions, and I think we came up kind of during my time kind of even. We won 2 and maybe lost 2, but that was a great program back then. It's a great program now. And then he was commissioned an Army officer in the Armor Branch, of which I was commissioned when I graduated from the Academy in the Armor Branch. We never crossed paths as far as our assignments, but we had that background. And I've also heard that he was in the unit with Elvis Presley. And in fact, Paul told me that story when we were going to a conference a couple days after I had become mayor, and that, I think, was probably in the 3rd Armor Division, late 50s, early 60s, something like that. But what I told Paul is I've heard that from about 15, 20, 25 officers. But I know that was true, but that was one of the first things I heard when I reported into my first unit from the first sergeant. But so that was kind of a little funny. But listen, 6+ decades of serving our nation, as I've said, first as a commissioned officer in the United States Army, and then as a Department of the Army civilian at Fort Leavenworth in the critical position of Deputy Garrison Commander. And during this long and distinguished career, he had time to serve his adopted hometown, Leavenworth, Kansas. And I guess that's one thing that also we decided is that we liked Fort Leavenworth, loved Fort Leavenworth, and decided to settle in the community right beside Fort Leavenworth in Leavenworth, Kansas, and that was another similarity between Jack and I. But during this time, he was 20 years on the city's planning commission. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure that he was the head of that commission for some period of time, probably in the 1990s when you were doing most of your work, maybe the early aughts. And while I don't know all the things that he worked on, I know the city was moving ahead in a great fashion during that time, and the Planning Commission does play a pivotal role as far as the city moving forward into the future, and I want to thank Jack for that and recognize his service on the City Planning Commission. He's also a member of the Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, so continually serving his community And the great thing about Jack is that everything he was involved with is done well, either meeting standards or way above standards, and he made people around him better. And it was setting the standard in terms of competence and just making the people around him better, and also the organizations that he was part of, better organizations. And for that, I wanted to present, and on behalf of my fellow commissioners, present him this City of Leavenworth Mayor's Award for Community Service. So I'm going to go ahead and read the citation. Mayor's Award for Community Service is presented to Mr. Jack Walker for exceptional contributions to the City of Leavenworth through connecting the city to Fort Leavenworth and the greater Army community for more than 3 decades. Along with his exceptional service as an active duty soldier and civilian employee for the Department of the Army, Jack served for 20 years on the city's Planning Commission. Jack has always been an active member of the community through the Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, and countless other organizations. Along with all of his service-related accolades, Jack is equally known for his integrity, humility, and lifetime dedication to public service. And I've signed it as the mayor of the City of Leavenworth on this date, January 14, 2020. Thank you, Jack. I want to also present him the city coin. He might have one of these, I'm not sure, but this is something that we do in the military, and we're going to do it here in the City of Leavenworth. And thank you very much for your service, Jack. And yeah. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. You have the floor if you want to say anything.
Frankly, it's been a real honor. I enjoyed my time in the military, and I wound up at Fort Leavenworth, and I have enjoyed my time there as the garrison deputy. Worked very closely with the city and the county and other communities around us. It's been a real pleasure, but I'm now retired. I don't know what to do with myself. So I asked Assistant City Manager Tedder if he needed any help down here, volunteer help for the city. And yeah. I've enrolled in school to go back for a second master's degree just to keep me busy. Wow. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know as I'm looking forward to retirement, but I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the city and do what I can to help my adopted community. And I thank you very much for this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to go on to the next agenda item under old business, and this are the minutes from our December 10th, 2019 regular meeting and December 17th, 2019 special meeting. Any questions or comments or discussion about the minutes from those 2 meetings? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes from December 10 regular meeting and December 17 special meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on December 10th and the special meeting on December 17th. We will begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. The motion carries. Next is second consideration ordinance 8120 rezoning 1001 North 7th Street.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, there have been no changes since first consideration at the December 17th minute meeting. Staff is here if you have any questions regarding this item. It's a simple rezone to a general business district zoning for this address.
Any questions or comments for the city manager or among the commissioners on this particular agenda item?
No.
If not, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Vote is 5-0. So we've approved this ordinance 8120 rezoning 1001 North 7th Street. Next is second consideration ordinance 8121 special use permit 729 Pennsylvania.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, again, this item was heard at the December 17th City Commission meeting, and there have been no changes since that. Staff recommends approval.
Any discussion or comments on this particular agenda item?
No.
No.
If not, this requires a roll call vote, and we'll begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, 5-0. Motion carries, so we've approved ordinance 8121, special use permit, 729 Pennsylvania.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Under new business, we have an opportunity for public comment. These are for items not listed on the agenda or for receipt of petitions. Is there anybody from the audience who would like to come up and make a comment? Seeing no one, I will go on to the first general item under new business, and this is to consider a request for waiver transient merchant permit for a military collectors show in Riverfront Community Center.
City Clerk Carla Williamson will handle this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, this is a request from Mr. Brown to hold a military collector show at the Riverfront Community Center on February 22nd. This event has been held at the community center for several years now. The ordinance does require that these types of shows do have to have a waiver if they're held on public property to include the community center. So that's the purpose of this evening, is just for the commission to grant that waiver if they so desire. Everything is still required by the applicant. They still pay the fees for the community center for the permit. They are also given a packet for collection of sales tax for any items that they sell during the sale. And Mr. Brown is here this evening if you have any questions, or if you have any questions of me, I can answer those for you as well.
Ms. Williamson, you said obviously has to have a sales tax permit, but you also said has to pay the permit for the merchant permit. You meant the fee for the community center, right?
Both. They have to. There's a permit for a transient merchant, which still has to be paid. And
Oh, that's not what we're asking for a
no,
waiver
all you're
on?
waiving is the ability for it to be held on
Okay,
public property
okay, just
at the
allowing
community
it to be
center.
held.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
Otherwise,
thank you.
it's prohibited.
Okay, thank you. And we've done this multiple, I'm sure Mr. Brown will tell us,
Many
but
years, yeah.
I've seen Mr. Brown here many times before, but.
Hello, Mr. Brown.
Good evening. Unfortunately, this has also been a project that my father put together. We've held this in the community for more than 20-some-odd years. It has been in multiple locations up at Fort Leavenworth, at the Officers Club, and then more recently it's been at the Riverfront Community Center. And unfortunately, today is his second anniversary of passing, so
Sorry to hear
this
that.
is still kind of hard, but I do have some flyers that I did make up for the event, so if you are interested, I do have those to indicate. But I do have merchants who come in from around, not only Leavenworth and Lansing, Kansas City. I've had people come in from Nebraska and Iowa and Oklahoma and other areas as well. For this, and it's just a one-day event, so.
You want to announce the date?
It is the 22nd of February, 2020. Unfortunately, it does compete with another big military show called Show of Shows in Louisville, Kentucky, but not everybody does go there, so I figured, well, let's have our own little show here in Leavenworth.
And what are the times?
It will be starting around 8 a.m. to about 4 p.m.
Is that a Saturday?
Yes, it is a Saturday.
Great, great.
Well, I think it's a great tribute to your father, who I know I had at least for one class at Command and General Staff College in military history. So we glad you came today, and I know and I'm sure my fellow commissioners are supportive of this. Is there any other discussion, comments about this particular agenda item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve what has been presented.
I second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. to grant a waiver of the transient merchant's permit for the use of the community center for the military collector show on February 22nd, 2020. We're going to start voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. The motion is approved, and good luck, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Right. Next are the mayor's appointments, and so I'll take the lead on this, and we have several tonight, so bear with me. I move to recommend the following appointments. Airport Advisory Board, reappointing Mr. Bob Euler, Steve Jack, and Greg Cause to terms ending December 31st, 2022, and appointing Jeffrey Buma to a term ending December 31st, 2022. Next, the Deer Management Advisory Committee, reappointing Mr. Clay McDaniel and Mr. Ed Menard to terms ending December 31st, 2022. Next, Grow Leavenworth County Development Corporation, appoint Mr. Tom Meyer to an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2020. Next, Parks and Community Activities Advisory Board, reappointing Mr. David M. Davis, Frank Mazetis, Ms. Wendy Sachin, and Mr. Esteban Zamora to terms ending January 15th, 2023, and appointing Jennifer Brenneman Toby to an unexpired term ending January 15th, 2021. And finally, Sister City Advisory Board, reappointing Ms. Maxine Hunter and Mr. Terry Weekly to terms ending December 31st, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
If not, we will begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. So the motion carries, and we've approved the following appointments and reappointments that we just discussed. Next is consider bids for Stubby Park renovation.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I will start on this item and then turn to our Parks and Recreation Director, Steve Grant, and our Park Superintendent, Brian Bailey. The part that I will cover is how we got here today to this project and this bid, and then I will let Steve and Brian go over the project. This project is a long time in the works. In 2018, the City Commission programmed Stubby Park playground equipment for replacement. We do this not necessarily on an annual basis, but we have a schedule of projects. In 2020, this year, we'll also be replacing the playground equipment at Doherty Park. This project was scheduled to be done in 2019. And as we approached the 2019 project, at the April 16th study session, staff presented options and associated costs with expanding the project to create more of a destination-type play area to help reduce congestion at Cody Park while offering citizens in this part of the community and the community as a whole with a more enjoyable experience while attending park locations. The presentation also highlighted that we, and is now complete, had a variable message board sign installed at the location and some stormwater work. The location was also noted that it's on 4th Street, which is an important appearance corridor for our community. Staff worked with Indigo Design to design an expansion of the original project, which was just a playground replacement project. The major components being 2 play structures for 5 to 12-year-olds and 2 to 5-year-olds, expansion of a perimeter sidewalk, walking area bordering the play area, expansion of the parking lot, as anybody who knows who have been to that park, that there's very limited parking. Protective fencing along 4th Street, sensitive to parents who are concerned about 4th Street being in close proximity to that park. Grading and site work for improved drainage. The play area sits at the bottom of the hill, which makes for good sledding, but not necessarily good drainage. Care was taken not to disrupt the area that is currently used for sledding, so this project would not affect that area. And design also took into consideration the possibility of expansion in the future, although the design does not address any large expansion beyond what I just mentioned, which could include eventually even more parking, potentially a restroom, and potentially down the road a reservable shelter like you would see at Woolman Park or Cody Park. Contract documents and specifications were formulated and the project was put out to bid, and bids were open on December 20th. On page 2 of this policy report, you'll see that the engineer's estimate for the expanded project that I just mentioned was about $270,000. Bids came in, and all bids were over the project cost. We did some investigation on why this was. There are a number of factors, one of it being some of the playground equipment that the engineer had put together came in higher through the bidding process, although not substantially over the engineer's estimate. Staff would then turn to the commission, as we are tonight, with a couple of different options. You could reject all the bids, instruct staff to redesign the project, modify the project, reduce the scope of the project, and come back to the commission. You could identify cost offsets, as staff has done tonight, and go forward with the project, which would, construction would start soon, this spring. And that's what staff would recommend. Or you could push the project back another year and add funding. So those are basically your three options: reject and reconfigure, hold and accumulate more funding in future years, or have staff identify offsets for the overages. So that's what we've done, and I'll walk you through the budget for the option that we've identified funding to do this project as designed. Along with the original allocation, the original supplement was coming from 2 leaf vacuum replacements that were, the funding for that became available when the city ended the leaf pickup program. And that was what we intended to use for the project. The shortfall in this case, the staff has identified the following funding sources. The Performing Arts Center's HVAC project, which was a multi-year project, is complete. Very happy with the project. There's $12,773 remaining in that project budget. Last year, the commission approved a batting cage project at Eagles Park. Staff intends to complete that project, buy the materials and do the work in-house. We believe that our crews can accomplish that project in-house. But we will still need to purchase the materials.
Where did you say that batting cage?
Eagles.
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 Okay.
Eagles.
Thank you.
There is a sort of a long dormant Parks and Recreation Foundation. That line item, which has been sitting on the books for quite a long time, has $19,029 in it. The stated purpose of those dollars is Parks and Recreation activities and amenities for the city of Leavenworth, so we thought that that was a good source of, or a good use of those funds. We will try to value engineer through just some small modifications, no large changes to playground equipment, but maybe just some tweaks here and there for $15,438 from the project itself, which leaves a total of $13,680.52. Staff identified in the policy report that that is available in the CIP contingency. Essentially, each year when we program all of our projects, we leave a balance for overages throughout the year. It's well into the 6 figures, so this is a small amount. I would like to make an announcement now that we just got confirmed that Mr. Bill Geiger of Geiger Ready Mix has agreed as of Friday afternoon to donate all the concrete required for this project. So what is not included in here is that CIP contingency use, instead of being $13,680, will likely be about $8,000 less. And so that hasn't been made public. That wasn't official till recently, but certainly a wonderful gesture by the Geiger Ready Mix company to donate up to 75 cubic yards of concrete for the project. Which is all the project should require. That will satisfy the parking lot, the trails, and everything related to concrete of this project. So before you enter discussion, I do want to have Steve and Brian go through the project so you have an idea of what it would look like, and then we can discuss what your options are. Brian.
Thank you, Paul. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. We're very excited to be here to present this project to you tonight. We've worked very hard on it. We think it's going to be a fantastic addition to the city of Leavenworth, being all along the main corridor of 4th Street as you come through town. It's going to have that wow effect, and that's what we were looking at. So with that, the playground equipment, what we've done on that, there'll be 2 separate playground equipment. This is the general footprint of the whole project, with the parking lot down here. The expansion of the parking lot in this phase, currently there's 8 spots there, and it will expand to 15. Currently there's 7 regular spots and 1 handicap. That'll go to 13 and 2 handicap. Now, as we designed this whole footprint, as Paul alluded to, we kept in mind the potential for future expansion, should it fit into the city's CIP to be able to expand this. That is true with the parking lot being able to be expanded over this direction, basically mirroring that footprint, doubling the size of that, as well as leaving space for a restroom and a shelter. If we're able to do that in the future and it fits in along with the CIP of the city. All new walkways coming off of the playground and surrounding. This is the general footprint of the new play area. It's gonna have all new, excuse me, pathways going around it. One other aspect of this we're very excited about is we're able to utilize the slope and contour of the park on the pathway on the east side of the park heading up to this big play structure. It'll be at a gradual slope for ADA, and then you'll be able to access the bigger play structure coming right across here on a ramp going across, and you'll be able to access right onto 5-foot high deck. So an individual parent or a child in a wheelchair will not only be able to access this at the ground level, but also can get up high on the play equipment, which is fantastic. You know, all of our equipment in all of our parks is accessible. Usually, though, it's at the ground level using a transfer platform. This allows for people to get up on the play equipment, whether it be parents or grandparents along with their kids or any disabled children. We do have a little bit different than the Cody project where we had one big composite structure. This will have two separate structures. In the playground industry, they divide and develop playground equipment based on different age groups. And they split up kids from age 2 to 5 and then 5 to 12 based on growth, you know, size, their center of gravity and all of that kind of stuff. So what we've done is we're gonna have two separate play equipment. The smaller one that will be designed for the 2 to 5 year olds, and it will be signed accordingly. So that parents can have their younger kids on there without worrying about them getting up to higher, you know, heights and going across upper body equipment that's more designed for the older kids, which in turn gives us the ability to go higher on this bigger structure to make it more challenging for the 5 to 12 year olds. That's a little bit different than it's quite a bit different than what we did over at Cody Park. Cody Park is one big massive structure where we invite the whole gamut of 2 to 12 year olds to come to that one structure, which is great. However, it limits you on how high you can go with some of your platforms because you're inviting 2-year-olds on here. This way, our highest decks on here don't exceed 6 feet. However, we're able to go up to 8.5 feet on this one with multiple slides coming off of that. As well, it's a continuous, as you come across the path, you're able to go around that continuous triangle. All those decks are at the same level, at that 5-foot level. So individuals in wheelchairs or with disabilities are able to easily traverse all the way around that on the same level. And then from there, there's steps and transport platforms for kids to go up higher, to go up and down slides. Also on this footprint, along with the two composite structures, we have the swings, just your regular swings. There'll be 3 swing bays. 2 of them will have your regular belt swings in it, and then the third one will have the bucket seats or the toddler seats. We also are including a multi-use swing. You see a lot of these in the new playgrounds where a whole bunch of kids can get on it and go at the same time. They're really a lot of fun, and it's something unique that we don't have here yet, so we're excited about that. And then some spring rockers over here, and another spinner here in the middle. Just a lot going on for a lot of things for kids to do. And as Paul alluded to, it gives us a second destination type playground. You know, people go to Cody right now to play on the playground, and that's really the only place we have that. This gives us that opportunity to have another place like that, and it will, and it'll look really good from 4th Street, it'll look like, wow, look at that, you know, 'cause it gives that wow factor, and it's gonna have that wow factor when you go up to it. We're really excited about the size. This is the, just the architectural, overhead rendering. There is a shade structure. It's kind of hard to see on this, but it's, extremely large shade structure that it covers all or at least all or part. It's kind of, looks like a spider web there, goes around.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have some 3D renderings coming up where you'll be able to see it a little bit better, but it's very large where it covers some or all of parts of 7 or 8 of the decks that are up there. So that'll be nice for the heat of the summer. So this is a 3D rendering. This is what, and of course the colors will be selected. These are just for demonstration. We'll select colors as we order equipment. This is the 5 to 12 structure. This is the ramp coming off of the berm that will be at a 5-foot level, coming on to these decks that have a continuous triangle movement around there for individuals to traverse around there really easily. Whether you're in a wheelchair or a walker or crutches because you broke your leg or anything, you're able to get up there, which is very nice. And then go on to the next one if you would, Brian. The other thing, this is just a different view of the same unit. What you can do, we wanted to make it challenging. Play needs to be challenging for the older kids, and what you're able to do is there's a lot of equipment, almost like you can call it fitness equipment or climbers, where you can literally go around this entire structure without touching the ground. Whether you go from an overhead climber to some pods. Go on to the next one if you would. This will show it a little better. Where you can come down this ramp, you can climb across these overhead rings. You come down on these pods, you come around on those, you come across this overhead ladder, and you're back over on the platforms over on that side. So it's going to be. Kids will be getting physically fit and they won't know it. So we're able to trick them into that. But, it's good for them, you know, and it's good to be challenged in the development, and we're really excited about it. Of course, it'll have the resilient engineered wood fiber surfacing on the ground underneath, which will be of adequate depth for all these fall heights, and all that goes through a bunch of ASTM testing and all that. But a lot going on. You got slides and climbers and tunnels and a lot of things at ground level, and then a lot of things once you get up on the upper level.
And there is the shading material.
Correct. There's the yep. So
how about for the playground equipment for the younger age group? Is there any shading there?
There is not.
Okay.
So this is a rendering of the smaller one. Right. We do have, we've designed around a very large elm tree, and have had that recently pruned. Not the best species on the planet, but it provides a lot of shade. So we've had it pruned. So there is some pretty good shade. What would be kind of on the west side of this footprint, and then over this particular. Component itself, no, not on it itself.
Did we do that, not have this shade just because of cost, or what was that?
Yeah, every time you add something like that, in fact, we talked about when we're trying to find places for money, we talked about removing the shade structure off the big one, and we just didn't want to go there. It has to be done now or not done at all, and we would rather, you know.
So you had to look at a trade-off.
Right, and then our goal was to find funding sources to fund the project as opposed to reducing the size of the project. Very, very simple, basic for 2 to 5-year-olds, very safe. No steep inclines, no steep slides or anything like that. Specifically designed for young little kids. And I can remember following my daughters around and hoping they don't fall off the bigger playground because they're going across the monkey bars and they're only 3 or 4 years old. So this doesn't have anything like that. None of the upper body equipment. We will have signage like we put out at our playgrounds saying this playground structure is designed for 2 to 5-year-olds, and we'll have one on each place. So I've probably missed a few things that I'll open it up. This is just another angle on the small unit. BKM is the low bidder on the project. They are local here. I believe we have representatives from BKM here to answer any questions you might have, as well as Doug Pickert, who was our design landscape architect on the project. Doug's done quite a bit of work for the city in the past. He was on the original group that put together Design Landing Park. And then he was also on the group that designed when we redid Woolman Park several years back, when we changed the drives and put the new playground and stuff. So Doug comes well represented here in Leavenworth also. So with that, if there's any.
I have a question.
Yes.
The pathway that you say is going to go around the whole park, is that like a walking path at all? Is it paved or?
This will be concrete, and now it's not gonna go around the whole, it's just gonna go around the play area. We wanted to
play
stay.
area, okay,
right.
yeah.
And that's all concrete, yes. That'll be concrete all the way around, 5 foot wide, I believe.
Okay, and then the fence that's going to be along 4th Street, how high is that?
Yes, I believe we put that at 5 feet. Is that, I think does that sound right, Doug? 4 feet, 4 feet.
4 feet, okay.
Yeah, and it's gonna be, we don't want it to stand out. We don't wanna look like we're fencing people in. So it'll just be a black
Right.
chain link that doesn't really, it'll be kind of along the bottom of the hill. And this is it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that won't interfere with the new sign because the sign's
No,
up higher?
not at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll stop short of that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. But that was one of the things when we met last spring, you know, people are worried, and we've had parents say, my kids are darting towards 4th Street. You know,
No, that's good.
Yeah,
That fence is good.
Yeah, so this provides security.
I've got a couple questions for you guys. If we do approve this tonight, when would it start, when would it finish, and how long would the park be down, if you will? And
We,
gotta take out the old stuff, put the new stuff.
Right, we're gonna remove the old stuff in-house. The park maintenance is gonna remove stuff in-house. But usually, once we choose colors, we'll start a contract tomorrow through the city clerk's office. But there's usually at least a 6 to 8 week lead time on ordering playground equipment. So generally speaking, park will be removing probably the old equipment starting February 1. And then hopefully, once that's done, probably around the 1st of March, they would start. And there's 120 days is what's in the contract to have done.
Okay. Compare this footprint to the current footprint? Do you have an overlay? The real question is, some people are saying, no more snow hill. That is not true.
That is not true.
And that's why I wanted to compare the footprint to.
Yeah, me too.
Correct.
It really doesn't change the footprint, it's just new configuration of the equipment, is that correct?
That is correct. If you're familiar with what's out there now, where this walkway has come out here, what would be kind of on the north end of this footprint of the new park, that's basically where the swings are at now.
Okay.
There's swings right there on the north end. So it's not coming over any further into that sledding area.
Because, I mean, you know as well as anyone that snow hill is somewhat sacred in this town.
Absolutely.
So, any rumors that the snow hill's being removed are gonna be.
No.
It's completely false.
Absolutely, that was.
And the other question on parking, there's 15, we expanded to 15 spaces. How many spaces are there at Cody on the limit side approximately? Do you know?
I think there's 24. I've counted them. I think there's around.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
But the fact remains, even though there's 15 here and may get a lot of action, there's, I think, more than 24 spaces, because 3rd Street on the east side, there's parking, if I'm correct, on both sides of the street, and for the whole length of that park, and they can easily get in 9 cars, whatever is. And at times, there are gonna be 25 cars there, but for the most part, not. So parking lot's not as large as Cody, but the available parking right there adjacent to the park is just as great as Cody. So
Yes, very much so.
This offers the same amount. I'm looking forward to all of this.
Yeah, we are
Yes.
too. We're excited.
Any other comments, questions for for Mr. Grant or Mr. Bailey on this particular agenda item?
Yes, actually, I have a question. Man, I love the idea, love the equipment, love the presentation, but is there any way possible we could move the shade from the bigger equipment to the smaller equipment? That would be my only question.
I don't know that we'd want to move one from the other, but we could look at what it would take to add.
Yeah, because it's gonna be hot, and the little kids, we don't want them, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Didn't you say there's a tree there, though?
Well,
It's only on
we
west- on
won't,
the west
you know,
side.
depending on the time of the
That's
On the
day.
west
Need
side,
it though, in the
okay.
summer, you only get the west sun.
We can
Yeah.
certainly,
East and south, you don't have to worry
we can
about.
certainly, you know, nothing's been ordered or set in stone. We can certainly go back and like you say, Commissioner Wilson, now's the time to do that.
Correct, yeah.
When we do the initial construction, so we can certainly go back to the manufacturer and see what that would add to it.
Okay, yeah, that'd be my only request.
Well, I think even though it came in above the engineering estimate, this is the time to do it. I would not put it off for another year because it could cost a lot more in another year. So I really think we should go ahead and roll with the BKM.
Any other comments or questions? The only other question I have is quality assurance, quality control. Will that, once the contract, will that be part of the contract for the contracting firm that does the work? Or is that gonna be performed by you, Mr. Grant, and your staff?
It will be on the general contractor,
Okay.
but as well, Doug Picker with Indigo Design will be up here from time to time, as well as Brian. Brian and I are both certified playground safety inspector certified, so we know something doesn't look right. So we'll be out there quite a bit. Generally, that falls on the GC, but obviously we'll be there right along with them.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the design, and you went into some detail, and I think it is a very unique and sophisticated design for a playground for children, and, you know, looking to invest in our youth. I think this is supportive of, you know, what we've talked about as a commission, not only, well, over the last few years, so I'm very supportive. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the bid from BKM Construction with the bid project amount at $314,233.23. And in addition, the design cost at $20,994. The project total not to exceed $335,227.23.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We'll start the voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. Vote is 5-0, so we've
Great.
approved
Thank you
this,
very much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Good job.
Thank you.
A little bit more mundane of a subject, but certainly important is the next. Consider approval of bids for the purchase of chemicals used in the operation and maintenance of the wastewater treatment plant.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, you do have a substitute cover sheet for this policy report, and it doesn't change anything for 2020, any prices, any budget numbers. What it changes is in your, about two-thirds of the way down the Excel table there, we put the 2018 prices instead of the 2019 prices, and
Okay.
that's all we're showing. The comparison just changes those, but nothing has changed for 2020, so I just wanted to make that clear. I'll turn this over to our Public Works Director, Mike McDonald.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Commission, this is our chemicals, essentially what we need to operate the plant for the year. There are 5 different chemical types that we purchase routinely, and we try to bid them all at the first of the year, and we order them to be delivered as we use them. They're not ordered and sitting around at the plant. They're basically, we order a pallet of polymer or a barrel or 2 of a particular chemical and such. The short version of what we're buying is hydrogen peroxide, which is an odor control agent we use in the lines as they go to the belt press. The hypochlorite and hydroxide, or sodium hypochlorite and sodium hydroxide, are used as part of the interior air scrubber to remove dangerous chemicals during the sludge dewatering process. Ferrous chloride is a general odor control agent that's added to the incoming wastewater to reduce odors from the plant escaping into the community. And the polymer assists in removing water from the sludge, which is then trucked to the landfill. All told, there's about $55,000 or so of chemicals. We would order them as we need them. And we've shown the usage from the prior year is attached to the policy report. And if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Is there is the cost pretty much in the ballpark of what we spent in 2019? Or,
yes, things go up and things go down. There is some of the, one of these is sodium hypochlorite, I believe, is essentially household bleach. We use that in the odor control system within the building. We've kind of upgraded that, replacing components, so we think that may go down over the previous year. But this is typically what we see. The prices are generally in line.
Pretty
Yeah,
consistent.
and there's no explaining why things go up or go down most times.
Any other questions or comments on this agenda item for Mr. McDonald?
No.
If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the staff recommendation, purchase the chemicals as outlined in the staffing report, not to exceed $55,000.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for this particular agenda item. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Vote is 5-0, so we've approved this agenda item, and low bids meet the specifications for the chemicals for 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is consider bids for Planters 2 Plumbing Riser Replacement Project.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, the next two items will be handled by Andrew Cheatham, the Housing Manager for the Leavenworth Housing Authority.
Hello, Ms. Cheatham.
Hello, Commissioners and Mayor. This project is long overdue. It's been in the works for a couple of years. It's taken a lot of background and inspections and work. We've worked closely with Hal in inspections as well as with DiAgostino Mechanical and S&S Plumbing. And we've come to the conclusion that the pipes have outlived themselves by maybe a life and a half. Those pipes should have only lasted for 30 years. They are currently 46 to 47 years old. They are cracking, causing excessive plumbing issues. We're only using about 10% of the, do you see the pictures? Have you all seen those pictures? We're only able to use about 10% of the whole, volume of that tubes, which, you can see how it's causing the plumbing problems.
Yeah.
They are also causing cracking, causing fumes to come into tenants' apartments as far as like the sewer smells and things like that. We had to replace 2 of the only 4-inch waste pipes when all of them should have been replaced, but just the main one was replaced because once they begin leaking, they're leaking sewage. So waiting till they get to that point is not an option, and it should have never been an option. But we've consulted with an engineer, Mr. Alan Langford of Langford, Findler and Associates, and Ron Oxier of Ellison and Oxier Architects closely for about 6 months before we even went out to bid for the project. They prepared new drawings and prepared our bid packets and our specs and everything to make sure everything lined up. We got them approved through HAL and inspections to make sure that they were meeting up to code and everything. We went out for bid. We opened those bids on December 17th. Kansas City Mechanical came in with the lowest bid. All bids came in below the engineer's estimate. As you see, Kansas City Mechanical came in extremely low. So we did go in and check the references. They've worked with the city on several projects already. They also come highly recommended from J.E. Dunn, and they've worked with a lot of other big name corporations. And according to how he hasn't had any kind of performance problems or anything. I contacted Alan Langford, our engineer, and he looked over the specs and said that they're bidding the job appropriately. They're using Dave and Baker's wages. I contacted KC Mechanical to ask them their feedback on why they feel they came in lower. And without seeing the other bids, they really can't give you an exact reason, but they sent over their specs again, how they broke everything down. Everything looks great. They're using my preferred contractor, and I'm so glad about that. So they're using Swan's, a local painting company, who does excellent work on repair on the drywall and painting and putting it back. So they seem to be doing everything great. The only explanation they could give me was they have lower overhead cost, so they can come in lower for the project. So I am asking today that we accept their bid of $532,434,000.
Mayor and Commission, just a couple notes, because I'm pretty familiar with this project, being the Executive Director of the Housing Authority for about 5 years. Just so everybody knows, either watching tonight or in the crowd or the commission or whoever reads the paper, this has nothing to do with the pipes that feed water. This is all waste pipes, so there's never any health issues concerned with any kind of drinking water. I know when you hear plumbing and pipes corrosion and stuff like that, the first thing you think of is that. And the other problem is why it took so long is extremely complex. It's the interior plumbing for the entire building. And it was done from what I understand, in an odd fashion. You would never design the plumbing the way that it's done now, which has made the project much more complex than any kind of, and it's replacing all of it. So that's why, one of the reasons why it's taken the length that it has. So that's all I have for that.
And if I may add, also, we currently have cast iron pipes. And we're gonna be going to PVC, and right now they have an infinite lifespan, and you don't have the same problems that we currently are having with these cast iron. So we should not have to redo this project in any of our lifetimes.
Once the project begins, assuming that the commission approves the funding, how long will it take approximately?
6 months or less.
And we'll start this year, right?
Yeah, it'll
We
be
will
done
start
in
on the
phases.
11th.
Right.
Yes, we're gonna start the first phase. It'll be 6 phases, starting on February 11th. We estimate the first phase, which is gonna also be our learning phase, to take approximately 4 weeks, and we're hoping for that time to get shorter over a period of time.
Sure.
So this,
Go ahead, Commissioner Bauer.
so this goes through the center of the building and through all floors, or are you
Right.
working
Yeah.
floor by
They're
floor?
all
or how?
they're all floors, and they're actually done in vertical stacks, the plumbing, so that's how
Okay.
they're allowed to, that we're able to phase it. And
Right.
if I'm
Okay.
misrepresenting anything.
We have 12 of them.
Right,
Okay,
12
all right.
individual
So it's a
stacks.
section going from the top to the bottom? Like
Yes, from the
section?
rooftop all the way
largest,
down.
yeah.
We're only gonna
It's a
go from the
section.
roof to the first floor. Some floors are back to back, and then we have a few that are just like single stacks, but we're gonna do 2 at a time.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
How about the source for funding, Mr. Kramer?
Yeah, so these are federal dollars, so I think that's important, I'm glad you brought that up. Every year, the federal government provides the city operating budget dollars for planners too. That's how you pay your utilities, that's how you pay your staff, that's how you keep the building up and running. There's also an annual capital allocation. Another good reason why this took a while to do, because you have to bank a number of capital allocations over many years to do a project of this scope. It's all dollars that we receive from the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Great.
We're just administering it.
Because
Yes.
So it's not coming out of Leavenworth tax dollars.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this particular agenda item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the low bid for the plumbing riser replacement project, Planners 2, and award it to Kansas City Mechanical in the amount of $532,434.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for this particular agenda item. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, 5-0. This motion carries, so we look forward to this needed project and a very good
Very much
presentation,
so.
Ms. Cheatham, and I think you're going to
Yes.
stay here, right? And
Yeah.
Yes,
talk to
sir.
us about the next one.
Next one,
Very good. Consider sole source request for hotel accommodations for Planners 2 tenants during renovations.
Hey, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is another part of the pipe project. The tenants cannot stay in their apartments during this renovation project because they will not have running water. However, they will be allowed to go into their apartments in the evening once the work has finished for the day, but they cannot enter their bathroom or their kitchen. For that reason, a lot of them are not very mobile. They do not drive. They're in wheelchairs and things like that. So I wanted to put them right across the street. It's not their fault the pipes are that old. For their convenience, we wanted to accommodate them and put them right across the street at the Home 2 Suites. I've been working closely with Susan. She's their sales manager over there. Denise Souza. She is great. She has lowered the rate. The market rate for those rooms would run approximately $124 to $131 for probably the first phase and a half or two. But then after that, the rate would normally increase to $129 to $149. With the pet fee being $150 per day, she's graciously lowered that down for us to $104 per night and only $150 per stay for that one tenant for the entire stay instead of per day. So I feel that she's been more than fair with the price. During the first phase especially, it's going to be really long. To have them close to home, they can go home and get their medications, their clothing, and things like that. I think the tenants would feel more comfortable with that accommodation.
How many are you going to be displacing at a time?
Approximately 17 to 18 at a time.
Okay.
Total
Okay.
being displaced is going to be 104.
Okay.
This is a requirement by HUD that we do provide accommodations. The sole source comes because we're fortunate enough to have a downtown hotel that is suitable and across the street, so that's why it's the sole source.
And
Great.
once again, the source of funding, the federal.
Also
funding.
federal dollars, yes.
Okay, any questions or comments for Ms. Cheatham or in general?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the sole source contract with Home 2 Suites for temporary housing of Planners 2 tenants in the amount not to exceed $329,430.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. So we've approved the motion and this particular agenda item. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
When will this start? Mr. Kramer?
Standard practice, we'll get a contract signed, we'll have to get all the insurance stuff in place, probably 30 days, probably be done with that kind of stuff, and then the project will start right after that.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
All right, we're at the consent agenda, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lienhard.
Okay. Claims for December 7th, 2019 through January 10th, 2020 in the amount of $3,805,033.83. Net amount for payroll number 26, effective December 20th, 2019, in the amount of $364,927.18. Includes police and fire pension of $11,572.36, and net amount for payroll number 1, effective January 3rd, 2020, in the amount of $335,533.22. No police and fire pension.
I second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. On this particular agenda item, we'll begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0, so we've approved the consent agenda and the claims that was part of this, that was this particular motion. Okay, that completes all the formal agenda items, so I'm gonna, Mr. Kramer, anything from your perspective?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. We'll go, Commissioner Wilson, anything that you want to bring up?
Yes, let us remember Monday, which is Martin Luther King Day. We will be celebrating the legacy of a man who stood for righteousness, peace, and equality for all mankind. There will be a celebration. An event will be held at Sunflower Baptist Church, 1708 Fifth Avenue at 6:30 p.m. And this event is being hosted by the local NAACP chapter.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lienhard, anything for the,
No, I don't have anything this time.
Commissioner Preisinger?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Bowder?
I have nothing.
The only thing I have is just very happy with the roll call vote that we had, unanimous vote to approve the special use permit for a center within our city that's going to help those living with dementia and also those who care for them. So that's a very good, positive step, and I think it's excellent, and I just wanted to point that out, and I'm glad that the Velardos were able to come to our meeting today, and we look forward to when the center opens, and thank you very much. 4 weeks?
4
Great.
weeks?
Great.
Awesome.
Super.
Great.
Thank you. Any other
Really good.
comments or questions for the good of the order here? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion carries, so we are adjourned.